As you guys grew in scale, how did that shift how you saw the business? Did you start to look at it differently? Was it more of a legacy brand that you thought, I got more to manage from God now. How do I deal with this?
Well, I just spread it out. I pass it to other people. And so I do what I can do. I'm really big on that. Like what I can do every aspect of our business, in which I have. If you go back in time, I've answered the phone, I've packed boxes, I've shipped stuff, I've done every job at the company. But what I can do best and how I can make the company the most, that's where I put myself, and then I just pass it to other people and say, hey, you're great at this, you're great at this, hey, you're smart, you're a CPA, you'd be great, and these are things that that I'm horrible at. I'm so bad with numbers, and I always get a kick out of people ask me about business, because I'm like, as far as numbers, and I was a terrible student and didn't do good at math, but I find people that can do that, and again, find what makes them happy. What do you want? What do you need? Put them in the right place, and then watch them just, go. And then that's how you can get bigger. And so, because if we're talking about ideas that if somebody says, oh, that's not going to work, or but I want to know why. Like, well, we tried that years ago. Well, how did you try it? What did you do? What exactly did you do? Because I don't, just because we tried something that didn't work, I don't take that as a fact and say it didn't work, So I'm always open. And that's communication. I got to be listening to other people. Times change, And the older I get, I'm kind of like, man, I am so out. I'm not good at technology. But I stay where I'm at, and so I just get more young people that say, where is this? And so I think the combination of all that is what can make a company great and grow. And I think this is a legacy brand. But again, I don't take myself too seriously, so it's not, we do what we do, and it's not the end of the world. And I try not, I go with it, trust God, and say, hey, God, you got this, you lead us. And as long as He is in our hearts and working, and we can see that manifesting out, then I think our companies will follow suit and be good as well.
Yeah, so many lessons there with just delegation and not being the bottleneck, and having that humor mixed with that humility. I think it's one of the reasons you guys are so widely loved today. And I'm curious as to the ways you communicate now with your team. I mean, you're running this thing from all over the country. You're a busy guy. We do, at Ramsey, we have staff meetings, and we do stand-up meetings and one-on-one meetings and weekly reports. What are some of the, you guys run a business very differently, I'm sure. What's the common ways you communicate with your team, with your leadership?
Okay, so it's kind of, I'm not a good meeting guy either. But so you go from, like, my father, he doesn't have a phone. He doesn't have a cell phone.
Wow.
He doesn't have a computer. So if you want to meet with him, you have to go find him in the woods. That is not that's literally, I'm like, where's Dad? He's somewhere on the back of the property. And so we've got that. Now, I'm not that bad. I have a phone, but I'm not into meetings. I rarely show up and do meetings. But if for the people at the office who need to have meetings and do all that, they do that as well. And so I think but again, I'll come in, and then I'm more of kind of the vision, and, let me know where the big thing's moving. But again, I get out of the way. I get out of the way because there's so many decisions that have to be made. And the people that are involved in that day in, day out are the ones who really need to make those decisions. They may can ask for some wisdom and say, hey, what's your experience tell you on this? But I pretty much just let people go. And so I tell people, hey, get your job done. You're not going to hear much from me as long as you get your job done. And then obviously I look at the bottom lines. I look at, how it all's going. But I have a lot of different, companies, a lot of different things going on as well. And so I have business partners in tons of other businesses that I have to meet with, and communication is huge, And so, it's gotten better, and just because you're successful and it doesn't mean that you still have to communicate. I mean, one thing goes wrong, and the whole thing can go south. And so, but that's what's able. It's a great team that can allow me to do the other things that I need to do and continue to grow and stick my toes in other businesses. So,
well, part of that is you have a high level of trust with your team, and you have a respect for what they do. And hey, this is not a strength of mine. I trust you to do your job, and that empowers them to then do that job. And so there's a lot of lessons even in there, what you just said. So I'm curious, as we wrap here, Willie, You mentioned a lot about you're kind of the vision behind this. You're the engine.
Mm-hmm.
What is your vision? I mean, you're a grandpa now. That's gotta be crazy. And so
Yeah,
you start thinking differently about legacy and what does the next 10, 20, 30 years look like? Has that changed your vision and legacy for yourself or the companies that you run?
Yeah, well, I just try to pour into my kids and pour into them and their businesses and what they're going to do. You got to remember this too. I didn't come to work for Duck Commander until I was 30.
Wow.
And so I always tell people that, like, I think people think they've missed it. You know, it's like, oh, I think I've missed it. I'm too old, or I didn't get started. I mean, I didn't start working here until 30. Duck Dynasty didn't start until I was 40. And now I'm 50. Isn't that crazy and my parents were even older. Like Uncle Si was retired from the military and pretty much retired and going to do nothing. And think about how his life changed in the past, 10 or 11 years. And so you never know, you never know what opportunity is around the corner. And so for my kids, I think I pour into them. I help with their businesses and help with experience, and I help with wisdom. And really just, because I know what it's like when your kids are little. We had little kids, and so you really need, when you're really pushing and, you're trying to establish that family, again, faith, family, and then whatever that is. And so if I can be there to help, and Corey helps a lot with that as well. And so, I think that's what I'm focusing in on now, and trying to take I still love opportunities. I still love businesses. And I mean, shoot, I started a couple this year, a couple of new things. I'm in the dog business now, and so I think it's a great business. I was like, I love dogs, and so now we have a dog business, and so also I stay local. So you can't get so national and around the world that you miss local, and I think it's important for my faith. I think it's important, locally to be in a church and locally to do things what normal people do. Because I think sometimes, I can see how you just get so, when you become kind of celebrity and kind of in fame, you're not real present locally. And so it's always helpful. And so I do these things. I play golf every Wednesday afternoon with these older guys. And so I just love, listening to them talk, listening to their stories. And I do that. I clear my schedule, and I'm like, this is what I'm doing, this day, so that I can just remember, like, hey, don't get so, out of it, and you're not present with your community and where you live and where you shop and where you go to church and all these kind of things. That's important to us as well.
Yeah, it helps you stay grounded. And you mentioned a lot of these hobbies. And I think a lot of leaders, especially entrepreneurs, you're running a small business, they're like, I don't have time for a hobby. But what I can tell with you, and Dave Ramsey is the same way, he loves golfing and hunting, and you all just went on a hunting trip recently, is that it energizes you, it refuels you to then carry on and do the hard work. What is the power in being able to unplug like that?
Oh, it's so powerful. And I've learned that because when you're talking about communicating, I can watch somebody. I've always said I can play around the golf with someone, and I can tell you your whole personality after that. I mean, I can see how you deal with, with so many things. I can just watch that, and so I can, and you can communicate in these different settings. And so again, I'm outside the box. So I'm not like in a box. We have to be in a meeting and have to wear a suit and all these things I don't like to do. So I'm like, if I can get you somewhere, and then we can really find out where that is. The communication could happen at 9:00 at night. It could happen at a hunting place. And so I'm just intentional about doing those things, because I can do both at once. I can work, and I can also have fun at the same time. And so many of the early Duck Commander was golfing. It was out playing golf, because I could tell stories, and then I would get, I'd have companies say, hey, come, we'll bring Willie in. He's a funny storyteller, and he's just fun to be in, the deal. And then we would come out with 3 deals. Wow. We'd have 3 great deals that we would have buyers. And so still to this day, even at hunting places, to where I'm meeting with buyers, I'm meeting with people that buy products. And so we get them in a different environment, whether it's golfing or hunting or whatever it is. And we do that. And then we can also do that with our kids now that my kids are old enough. So I just came from another state where I took my sons and my son-in-laws. And so we were all hunting together in camp. And again, just making memories, just, watching them learn, and also to say, hey, this is, they reminded me of when we were younger and doing this, but I was doing it as a business. And I was like, this is what this is like. And so, I mean, I think if you can make something that you love into a business, and it's weird, I've been able to do that. I can tie these things, I'm I'm a shareholder in LA Golf, which is a golf company. So now part of this is for your spouse. So I can say, look, I've got to go do this because I've got to go to work. And so it's actually, I'm hunting. And so, the Camouflage 4-Low is a deal I just made, and this is a made in America company. So I can turn this into business, but it's something that I love. And so that's just awesome when you can do these products, whether it's grilling, like with Pit Boss Smokers. Like I have all these things where I'm like, I can figure out how to do this. And so if I can influence and have passion, and it's normally things that I love to do and love to be around. And so it's a beautiful thing. It's awesome.